This conference will now be recorded.
Awesome. Evening, everyone. We'll call the Zoning Board of Adjustment Board meeting to order. I guess that's what I'm supposed to say. I'm still never figured this out. It's January 18th of 2022, and we will start off with Zoning Board Case 22-01. Evening.
Good evening. Is that still the Volta charging case?
That is still the Volta charge.
All right.
Yeah.
Hello, Leanne. Nice to finally meet you.
Hi, nice to meet
We've
you.
been emailing a fair
Yeah,
amount.
quite a bit.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Dolan, and I'm here on behalf of Volta Charging. And Volta, you're probably not that familiar with Volta, but they are new in some respects up towards the Northeast here. But they were a company that was founded in 2010 out of a passion for advancing electric transportation. And since then, Volta has mastered the art and science of developing cutting-edge electric vehicle charging stations. The stations are thoughtfully located along the paths of daily life. Volta chargers are the most heavily used charging stations in the industry. And there are thousands of them right now across the country, with many, many more in the works. The Volta charging experience is unique from other chargers that you may see out there. The concept here is that we provide free electric charges. Most other companies, other than Tesla, but you have to have a Tesla, most other companies charge for their electricity. Volta has a model that provides electricity for free as a way to encourage the use of electric vehicles. As the electricity, though, must be paid for by someone, my client sells advertising space to brand name advertisers on digital screens on the face of the charging stations to generate the revenue necessary to pay for the electricity. So Volta's charging stations are seen as destination charging, with its stations typically situated near outlets, malls, and large retailers. Here, Volta is proposing 12 charging units at the Tanger outlets. And the way, I think you've all seen the plans, and there's some photo simulations in there. Those were a little rudimentary. We have some actual photos that we can share that are a little more apropos. But what happens is, on the face of each charging unit, there's a screen for advertisements measuring 55 inches diagonally. The ads on these screens are stationary. I want to be clear, they're not videos, and there's no sound emitted from these charging stations. It is merely an image, and then every 7 or 8 seconds, it changes to a different image. The screens are backlit, similar to a TV screen, and they target pedestrians, not vehicles. I want to be clear about that too. So in short, and I think you can see from the photos we included with the application, the plans, that these charging stations have very crisp lines. They're sleek, they're attractive, and they have a very high-end quality. You may see some in other locations that have cords and cables dangling everywhere. They're typically in poor state of repair. Not Volta. Our stations enjoy a lot of positive feedback. They are highly sought after and admired by EV owners, commercial property owners, and businesses alike because of their attractive appearance and the free charging experience. In this case, we situated the charging stations in a way that would have the least visual impact that we could. There should be no visual impact on surrounding properties. We did receive some feedback from the planning board and situated several of them in a way that was responsive to their comments. I've got a representative from Tanger here tonight with me. He's very excited about these units coming in and being a benefit for those shopping at the stores there. I also have a representative from Volta here tonight who can share a little bit more about the types of stations we're proposing and why we kind of picked some of the spots within the parking area to locate them. So with respect to our application, that given that Volta's cutting edge EV charging station model and the design of the units with display ads is a new phenomenon, there's no way that those who adopted the current zoning regulations could have envisioned this type of technology. So because of that and the proposed display screens on these charging stations, we are seeking a variance from section 2.3 of the zoning regulations. And then even more specifically, we're seeking a variance from section 2.32 for off-premises advertising. As you can well imagine, these display screens are showing advertisements of national businesses, whether it be Haagen-Dazs, JetBlue, Alaska Air, you know, all the big names. That's where they're able to get national advertisers who can provide the revenues necessary to purchase the electricity. But because of that, those businesses are not necessarily on site. If they are, it's serendipity that there may be something sold in one of those stores. This is, though, a more general platform to be able to derive the revenue that we need. So we've submitted what we believe is a fulsome application addressing the requirements for the variance. And we're very excited to bring these stations to Tilton. You know, at the same time, providing a significant clean energy impact on the environment. So with me here tonight, Michael Hirschberg is here from Volta. And I might ask him if you want to come up, Michael, and maybe you can explain the two different type of chargers we have out there and what the thought process was by Volta, Tanger, and even with the feedback of the planning board as to how we arrived at these locations.
Absolutely. For the record, Michael Hirschberg from Volta Charging. Members of the board, thank you again for having us tonight. I have with me photos of different stations, but I guess to talk a little bit more generally, I can actually probably hand these to you if you want to just take a look while I talk. So just to talk a little more generally, so there's two different types of charging. There's the L3 fast charging as well as the L2 destination charging. So L3 fast charging is really meant for the consumer that is coming in for, you know, a Starbucks coffee, a Five Guys sandwich, burger, or anything of that sort of nature, where it's going to be kind of a quick stop. A vehicle will charge, probably fully recharge. It depends on the vehicle, a lot of other schematics involved within a 15 to 20 minute time period. From there, we also have the L2 destination charging. Those are the stations that we're pushing toward further into the mall. That's where we are expecting people to go and spend more time. And it's also to the benefit of an EV driver to not use fast charging all the time because it actually degrades the battery over a long period of time to do that constantly. So most EV drivers charge at home. They go off into the world, et cetera. So they'll use fast charging on that road trip, you know, as people come up from Boston, New York, et cetera, to go spend time in the White Mountains. And so the L2 charging, again, is that slower charge. Certainly that's something where someone's going to be spending more time doing a lot of shopping, et cetera. So that kind of pinpoints those two different spots. And we did have two chargers that actually did move alongside the the entranceway. We did that at the suggestion of the planning board. They had asked us to move those because of the congestion around Starbucks. So in order to kind of alleviate that, we pushed them to the side there, but we wanted to still put them in a spot where someone who was approaching with an EV would be able to charge and then continue on with their day.
And similarly, for any questions you might have, as I mentioned, we do have a representative from Tanger here as well. So with that, we would love to entertain any questions you might have.
How much would a normal charge cost? So I go to Boston, I park, plug in.
Mm-hmm.
How much would, let's say, a 2-hour charge cost me?
So it depends on a numerous number of factors. So for example, with a lot of electric vehicle charging that's come about, a lot of garages in Boston, for example, also charge for entry. So you're charging. Sure. So I mean, say let's make it up. You pay $7 to come into the garage itself.
It is.
And then to charge, as you charge, it'll probably cost somewhere between like $10 to $15 dependent. I mean, it depends, I guess, how much charging you're doing. You know, if let's say your battery's at 50%, you're probably going to spend maybe around 15, 20 bucks. If you're pretty much empty, you've come down from New Hampshire to go shopping in Boston, maybe you spend closer to $25 to $30. So really what we're trying to do is change the behavior of drivers as they go shopping for their next vehicle, as you know, EV charging becomes more and more available. You know, it's kind of build it and they will come. So the idea of, you know, having it out there, putting the infrastructure into place will encourage more people to consider adopting EV, especially as electric vehicles become less and less expensive, just like that brand new TV that is now far less expensive.
Yeah.
How about the lighting, like reflection of light on oncoming cars in the parking lot and
Yeah,
things like that?
absolutely. So as you can see from one of those images too at dusk, you can see that it adopts very much like a cell phone. So the output of light really does drop because it's not trying to overtly attract attention. It's just there, just like any sign would be, not to draw someone's eyes directly to it in a bright flashing light that would be distracting, as well as, like, for example, when the sun is setting, it also uses ambient lighting in order to darken itself, so that way it's not projecting anything off of it. And the screens are also protected, so that way they do not give off what am I trying to say, a glare off of the screen.
What's our contract? Meaning we'll sign this, you know, the town will agree, we'll change variances that the town citizens wanted.
Mm-hmm.
What's to prevent you in a year saying, you know what, we are going to do a slight charge? And then all of a sudden we have advertisement, which was the pull
Mm-hmm.
to allow these screens to be put in place. And now the citizens are being charged for the electricity. And on top of it, now we have advertisements, both advertisements for not being businesses in the premise and also screen size. So
Absolutely.
what's the guarantee for Tilton?
The guarantee for Tilton, I mean, our business model is based off of the revenue that we receive from advertisers, and we turn that, we are an EV charging company that uses advertisement as our, which we like to phrase it in a way that's like we're an EV charging company with an advertisement problem.
Right.
That we use that to really drive our revenue forward. I mean, to my knowledge, and I believe it is the nature of this company, it's at the mission of this company, to use advertisement to drive that message forward and to not utilize causing consumers to pay out of pocket for any form of charging. I mean, it's certainly built into our contract with Tanger as well. And the idea of, you know, this is how we're able to sell it to a lot of shopping malls and shopping plazas, because it's the idea of drawing customers in. And as that EV driver is looking for a location to charge their vehicle on their Volta app or whatever app that they're using, because there's a lot of them out there, that they are drawn to use us instead, and that therefore that advertiser is given that extra set of eyes because they've decided to stop in Tilton to charge their vehicle as they proceed.
I understand what you're saying, but you didn't really answer that question.
Well,
What is our safeguards as a town that what you're proposing tonight stays in place?
sure, that's a great question. And I would say we've seen this before too, condition any approval on the charging being at no charge as long as the variance is in place. If we deviate from that, we lose the variance.
You can make that a condition.
Yeah.
Put down as a condition if you want to make it.
Because I hear you. You don't want
Right.
someone to come in, do this, and all of a sudden, 2 days later,
Yeah,
Oh,
we
guess
can't
what?
do it
Credit
anymore.
card machine.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
That was a good point.
Is there any model? I understand how the model works. Totally get it. I just bringing up some things I've heard. Is there any model where you've done this where, you know, every 10th ad is a local business?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I wish I had it with me, but I have a picture, for example, we have a Shaw's in Wakefield, Mass. We advertise Sabatino's Insurance. We've also been known to put, flash the Little League schedule on there
I
at a
was gonna
different
ask,
point,
would you
something
be
like that.
able to allow to do town
100%,
municipal Amber Alerts,
Oh,
road closures?
yes.
they do it now for COVID.
Yeah,
Okay,
COVID.
so this isn't a
winter
corporate
storm
model
warnings.
where
Yeah.
there's a strict corporate model where these are the 6 ads that we're going to play. There's an element to, you know, kind of tailor it to the local.
Absolutely, these are very flexible.
Correct.
Would there be political ads?
No, we
No.
do not do political ads.
Okay.
What about alcohol, substance?
No,
Alcohol?
And we'd agree to a
not.
condition on
we
all that.
we avoid that subject. We avoid cannabis, any of that.
Yeah,
You
so
might
there's,
wanna make that a condition as well.
and,
Yep.
and even beyond the condition, there are 2 practical levels of responsibility there. Volta wants to protect its name and doesn't want to be associated with those types of things. And Tanger is not going to want that either. So yes, the condition is great, but even practically speaking, they want good old fashioned normal advertising there.
Sure.
And don't want to be on the edges with anything of that explicit content or drugs or sex, things like that.
Mhm.
Now, would the town of Tilton have to pay for advertising?
No, I mean, we would certainly make that part of our, we would do it as a courtesy.
We haven't technically read the conditions of it. So I don't know if we want
That's
to do
okay.
that or keep, if you guys have questions right at the
Are they
forefront,
just
kind of roll on
one-sided
it.
screen or are they double?
No,
Double.
Yeah.
what's that?
We just haven't officially read the application into the record.
No, we
So
haven't
You guys
done
are doing
anything.
a
We're
great
just
job with
like,
questions.
we're
so
just like blitzing the
Spitballing
questions
here, yeah.
first, right?
It's on 24 hours a day?
Yes, but we can also condition turning the stations off when it's, dark out. I mean, ultimately, I guess it's kind of a perk of leaving them on though is, I mean, if plows are coming through the plaza at 2 o'clock in the morning, I mean, I'm sure there's parking lighting on within that area, but I guess it would at least alert a plow driver that there is something present.
And they're in the islands and, there's enough to signal that they're there, but to his point, it couldn't hurt. But to your point as well, Leanne, yes, they have the capability of dimming them at night, especially when the stores are closed there. There's no need for them to be operating, so we're fine with that.
Well, you say that, but if I'm driving up 93 at midnight and I needed a charge, could I pull in and charge my car at
Yes.
midnight?
Yes.
But
So the
You just want
station,
to see the ad.
yeah, right, yeah, the station, yeah, exactly.
That's right.
Is there somebody that'd be on call to maintain them if there's a problem with them or anything?
Yes, we use a field service rep. That person reaches out to the contractor who's built them. We use a local contractor that's in the state of New Hampshire, and they'll get right out to service them as quickly as possible.
What's this isolated pipe billboard or bollards? I totally misread it. Never mind. I know what it is now. I read it as billboard and I was like, what is that?
It's an opportunity to change the, you said every 7 to 8 seconds.
Yes.
Board could decide they don't want it changing that often, or
Yes, so just to kind of point at that too, I mean, ultimately, we, try to negotiate how quickly ads change, but we do it based off the National Highway Safety Traffic Administration for electronic billboards on interstates. So those change every 7 to 8 seconds. So that's why I just give you a reason why we picked that model, but we can certainly be flexible with that as well.
But even that, there are limits though as to
Yes,
how long of a span we can go, because
right,
the
Typically-
advertisers want to see some
yeah.
change.
they want to come up,
Because
right.
They want their
the thought is if someone's walking slowly by in or out, they want to have a chance that someone might see it. So
They wanted to see 2 or 3 ads, not
Right,
not one.
exactly.
But they're all stationary ads.
Yes.
Yes, yep.
No blinking.
No blinking.
No blinking.
Like
No.
it's,
Nope.
Nope. We're not trying to throw a party in the parking lot.
no,
No, that's,
no JetBlue plane going across the
No.
screen.
No animation.
I don't have any questions at the
I have
moment.
one last thing to ask them.
Yeah.
And this is just so you guys have all the information. So where's the next closest place that you have these stations now?
So
New Hampshire?
in the state of New Hampshire, we just were permitted to construct at the Hannaford, I don't remember the street name, but it's in Manchester. So that one was just put through permitting.
Irving, Vine.
Or yes, that's the one. So that one there. And so we're also planning a couple others in Dover and Rochester, New Hampshire as well. So those are still in the permitting process, but.
And how many are you planning to put there? in Manchester?
So with Hannaford, it's based on our contract with them. Currently, it's set at 2 stations. That's kind of our first phase. After that, we may consider other options, just as Hannaford wants to grow their portfolio with EV charging.
so what happens is Volta will have national contracts with, grocery store chains, big box retailers. So they get in a master agreement with one of these companies that really likes the product. It'll help bring people to their business. And they set up a contract. Here's how we want it done. And they have strict controls on how they want Volta to do it. And, the grocery stores have turned out to be some big customers of Volta who love the free charging as an accoutrement to encourage people to come.
So your contract's actually with Tanger. Tanger's who's gonna spell out what goes on those signs, that sort of thing.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, they have a say in that, but of course, there has to be a contract with the advertisers.
Sure, yeah.
Exactly. So it's two-pronged like that.
Okay.
But Tanger is only going to let us do what Tanger's going to let us do. Is that right, Eric?
That's right.
And I'd ask about the number 12, like this 12, I think that's a lot, like how the number 12. gets-
Oh, sorry, I assumed it was a formula based on parking spaces, but how did you come up with the number 12?
Absolutely. So what we did is if you kind of go to, let's take a look together at, so if we do like the overall site map here on C100, I think it's like page 4. You can see how they're all spaced out. So along the edges here, that's where we're trying to put them near stores, right? So it looks like on the right side, you've got 2 L2 chargers. Toward the back there at the very end of the parking island, I think those are actually fast charging, but that's just where we were able to locate them because they're going to feed off a similar transformer. So that's kind of just how that fell into place. And then, yeah, so you can see anything kind of along the lines of the store, basically why we chose them and why 12. So we were just trying to, I guess, align with the parking islands and put them in areas where it made most sense to space them out, but have it readily available and to really, I guess, make a big plunge for EV charging and have it be a center for people to really come.
And similarly, in this case, there are so many different stores there, unlike a grocery store that has one entrance for people to come in and out. We're doing things out at the Chestnut Hill Mall right now, where there's a ton of different stores. They'll have a lot more stations because it's all about, pedestrian traffic in and out and whether there's somewhere to place one of these. So, we've done stop and shops though, where we'll only have 2 or 3 of them because there's only a couple places that funnel in.
My question was, Leanne, this is probably for you, or are we giving a variance on the off-site advertising, and for 12? Is it for 12, or if we give that variance, can you next year say, oh, we need 24?
You need to give the variance for 2 ordinances. One is off-premise signage and the other is square footage.
For 12 signs, for 12 charging.
And we can call it that way because this is a little bit of a different animal, right, than standard.
So they can't, it's working out well. If they want to put 12 more,
We'd have to come back to you.
Or 6 or 10.
Whatever.
Right, whatever you decide.
it could take off and electric cars could take off and they need more.
What about if is there any point where you decide you're not getting the advertising because there's not enough traffic there? And then what happens? These get abandoned and left for?
No. So I mean, like, we've kind of mentioned, we have a great reputation with Tanger outlets. I've actually served on the project board with this for the Georgia stores as well as Florida. So built into our contracts, I mean, we're trying to really keep a great relationship with Tanger. Obviously, by building stations and then abandoning them would be completely useless. Ultimately, too, I mean, if we were to break off that relationship or Volta would go extinct or go out of business, we would be liable for the removal of any of those stations that would come out of,
Yeah, you have a removal obligation to return
Yes.
the property to its prior condition.
That's right.
Do you currently have any of these in any of the other Tanger properties?
We are building at Daytona Beach, Florida, as we speak, actually. And we are also building in Locust Grove, which is in south of Atlanta, and another store west of Atlanta near University of Georgia. And I know that from a couple of my other colleagues, there's a few being built in Texas, I think in the Midwest as well, in the Chicago area and in Pennsylvania.
And they will be going, Matt, they'll be going before planning after, if this were approved.
They go back to planning.
Yeah, they started planning.
I'm okay at the moment. I don't have any more questions.
Good, we done.
All righty. So traditionally, we just have the applicant read their application into the record.
The criteria.
The correct 5 criteria.
What's in your application?
So would you like me to, on the pre-printed town form of application, obviously we have a very fulsome supplemental brief, but our responses on the application for variance, would that suffice?
Yeah, I think they're at like 11, 12, 1. That's your responses to it all,
Okay.
correct?
Yep, so and I can go through it if you'd like, as far as the form application for variance to the town, that granting the variance would not be contrary to public interest.
That's, yeah,
The proposed charging,
that's what we're.
yeah, okay. The proposed charging station with display screens will be located within a portion of the site that will provide a buffer of distance and existing structures to adjoining properties and nearby roads. Therefore, potential visual impacts will be minimized. The display screen signage will benefit those living and working in and traveling through the area by providing free electricity for electric vehicles. Sponsorship without limitations would allow Volt with limitations. With Volt would allow without limitations, I'm sorry, would allow Volta to engage all sponsors to cover the costs of installation, maintenance, and electricity for drivers. Number two, if the variance were granted, the spirit of the ordinance would be observed because the display screen ads and off-premises signage will enable Volta to provide free electricity for electric vehicles and will not produce smoke, odors, waste, glare, or significant amounts of traffic. The signage will not be a threat to public health, safety, or welfare and will not have a negative impact on property values. Number three, granting the variance would do substantial justice because if the charging stations were with display screens and off-premises signs are not allowed on the site, Volta cannot offer cost-free electricity to the public, and the clean energy benefits of Volta's charging stations will not be realized. Substantial justice will be done by granting the variances so the public will have access to free electricity for electric vehicles. Number four, if the variance were granted, the values of the surrounding properties would not be diminished because the proposed display screens will not produce smoke, odor, waste, glare, or significant amounts of traffic. Volta works actively with both local and national brands. Allowing off-premises signage allows for the promotion of both local and national businesses that stimulate the local economy. Unnecessary hardship. Owing to a condition of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, denial of the variance would result in unnecessary hardship because Romanet 1, no fair and substantial relationship exists between the general public purposes of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property because off-premises signage is prohibited, presumably to limit the display of advertisements to those located on the site and to prevent uncontrolled advertising. Volta utilizes display screens with commercial advertisement sponsorship to cover the cost of providing electricity at no cost to the public for the charging of electric vehicles. Volta's purpose is not in and of itself to advertise, rather to use the advertisement as a means to an end to pay for electricity so the public need not pay. And number two, the proposed use is a reasonable one because the ad display screens with off-premises signs will be within the parking lot of a commercial shopping plaza in which commercial signage is expected. The electric vehicle charging station display screens will not produce odor, smoke, waste, glare, excessive noise, or traffic. As electric vehicle adoption continues to grow both locally and nationally, the need for electric vehicle charging will only continue to grow. EV drivers as a whole specifically seek out opportunities to charge their vehicles without incurring a pecuniary cost. The parking lot in the Tanger outlets is an area where shoppers are expecting to find off-premises signage, and therefore such a use of this lot is a reasonable one. B, explain how, if the criteria in subparagraph A are not established, an unnecessary hardship will be deemed to exist if and only if, owing to special conditions of the property to distinguish it from other properties in the area, the property cannot be reasonably used in strict compliance with the ordinance, and a variance is therefore necessary to enable a reasonable use of it. The hardship is owing to the unique characteristics of the land and its use as a shopping plaza, which renders the proposed location suited for the electrical vehicle charging stations, as there is ample room on the site and the existing parking lot is an appropriate location for this green technology designed to charge electric vehicles free of charge. If the charging stations are not allowed on site, the display screens to recover the cost of the free electricity, Volta cannot offer cost-free electricity to the public, and the clean energy benefits of Volta's electric vehicle charging stations will not be realized. Volta has designed the charging stations to be as small as possible. Without the relief, the opportunity for free electric vehicle charging would not be allowed. Distinguishing the Tanger Outlets property from others in the area, this is a parking area in a large-scale shopping center with access to I-93, surrounded by numerous stores from different industries, which gives people many different reasons to utilize it. As it is surrounded by many different stores, off-premises signage would be permitted to make reasonable use of the property as a center for economic growth and progress.
Thank you.
Sure.
Anyone have any more questions after that? Anything new?
I do not.
No?
But these kind of were our ideas.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. We just got to figure out how to put that into words.
Yeah, so what we were talking about, like, make sure in writing, in our deal, that they remain free. That,
So you can make it conditional upon that the.
Exactly.
The advertising is allowed as long as the service, electric service is free.
correct.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah, exactly, right. So if they stop making it free, then the screens go
So it's
black.
conditional upon free-
Right,
free
absolutely.
electricity provided.
Allow Tilton to advertise for free,
Mhm.
and then ads not to include substance use or abuse or political ads of any nature.
And the number of stations, not to increase.
Well,
I
I
think
think
Well,
so.
we don't
that's
have to
already-
do that, though, right?
You can say no more than 12.
But we don't even, I mean, we can, but is there any, like,
Is there, I don't think there's
Unless
any,
you
not even
don't
a-
care if there's more than 12.
well, I guess by granting this variance, they can't build more than 12 without another variance, because we're granting an increase in the allotted square footage of signage, right?
Right, so you should say no.
So, okay, we don't have to specify the square footage in this?
No.
No, okay,
No more
okay.
than 12. Or whatever that number you think is, you want to make it, but you should say no more than. And you want to include the town advertisements, free to the town.
Yeah, I don't,
Public service or,
and I'll pose this to you guys, I don't know what is a reasonable amount that how this, what you run into with other businesses, you know, like if 10% of the advertisements allotted for the town, but at the same token, I understand if people don't take advantage of it, then
Right,
I don't
it
want
is that balance. Mike,
Yeah.
what's your sense as to how do you keep the business model going yet also
Yeah.
provide the?
So I don't sit specifically on the sales side, I'm on the engineering side, but it's certainly, I mean, we could either phrase it, I guess, in two different ways. I think typically what we've done is 2%, but certainly we can modify that as needed. For example, if Tilton's running like a huge campaign for something, not political, but, just related to the town,
sure.
we can certainly negotiate that and, find a way to make sure that that message gets out there. Like I said, we're willing to do a lot with this in order to really get town messaging out there. But I mean, typically what we found it's 2%. We could probably go 5, 6, 7%, depending on what you want to run. And we would make that work.
I don't know the answer to that. I'm just trying to think ahead and
I truly don't either.
Could
Well,
we
certain
keep it
times-
as a good faith relationship and say, the applicant will
Yeah.
work cooperatively with the town to provide free public service announcements,
When needed, or-
when needed, yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
so I don't know
I
what
think
that
one of-
5% means. Like,
One of
Yeah,
my
I don't-
goals
yeah.
also,
Really
one of my
know. There's
hopes
a
is
number
that
of
town businesses have the opportunity. So like we have a downtown here, and if
Yep.
we want to help try to draw people to come shop downtown, they have the opportunity to put their sign up there and be like, oh, I didn't realize that restaurant was down
Yeah.
there.
But they would have to buy in. That's not their business
Yeah, I
model.
think
It's
that's-
free.
They'd have to buy in.
Yeah.
because that'd be
Right.
competition. That-
Okay,
it
fair
has
enough,
to be
We're
a-
talking about events.
We're just
events in
talking
the
about
town.
community.
Community,
Town
okay.
community.
Fireworks.
And now that I'm not
business
saying that a business in town should have to advertise for free. I apologize, it came across that way. I'm hoping that they have the opportunity to utilize that resource.
Oh, yeah.
Like if the only thing you allow on your billboards is commercial national businesses.
Like,
Right.
your set demographics.
Right.
you know.
Okay.
Certainly, that's not what we're doing.
Okay,
I mean,
that's what I was trying to get
Open it up to local and everybody else.
Okay.
Certainly.
But they'll have to pay just like every.
Yeah,
of course,
other
of
town.
course, yeah.
Exactly.
That's their model, that's their business model.
at. Okay, that makes, now we're on the same page. I was like, oh, I don't know, 2% of the businesses want to use it.
I don't, it's a number that was thrown to me, so I was like, okay, I guess I don't know what that means exactly.
But you know what, just in case that number is off, we probably should keep it more general. about
Yeah, we'll just keep,
cooperative.
yes.
What do you guys feel about
Maybe
it?
leave that to planning board to define more.
So I
Yeah.
would say as defined by the planning board, can we?
Planning board, yeah, or the selectmen, or, they're gonna have to come for a permit, or,
Okay.
if they allow a certain amount to be decided, that may be the planning board, and they can bring maybe more information when they come.
Yeah,
to
the only
planning
thing I
board.
would say is if we leave it to the selectmen though, then that's another group that we'd have to go before. And if at all possible, we would just appreciate a condition that we will work cooperatively with the town, whoever you designate, in regards to free public service announcements, upon further discussion, something like that. Because we don't know you don't know what you want yet.
Yeah, I'm trying to not tie hands unnecessarily. I'm just trying to
Right.
I don't know how people feel.
Right, and how hard is that? I mean, the town, we don't have that much going on.
No.
Right.
We're not gonna be advertising all the time, but it's hard for the town to predict what's going to come up. There could be, we could have floods and spring
Exactly.
we need to notify, or, like the roads closed of a parade, or like you said, we might have some
Yep.
non-political, but town elections we want to advertise. Maybe
Right.
once a month would be something that comes up, or an Amber Alert, for example, I don't know.
Of course.
But
That's a good point.
Yeah,
we don't want to come across and say,
the
well,
response system it was called.
Yes, so we have utilized in
I
other
like
markets, so like when COVID was first was roaring, Volta was still pretty small, and
Figure that out.
this was back March 2020, we really.
They could go to them
expanded
anyways, yeah.
fast.
So
But
I don't
in
feel like I'm
California, for example, we had a whole
knowledgeable
COVID
I agree.
response system about masking up and,
Right.
sanitizing your hands and all the
Not
different things that
knowing
were coming about. The number of cases that were being reported as kind of the hysteria that was really taking
Right.
place.
Right.
So-
But certainly, we're willing, I guess, like I said, to just really make a good faith effort to work with the town as closely as possible. I'm certainly the local representative that's around. I'm in Massachusetts, but I'm not that far. And certainly can, easily get on the phone, be more than happy to do anything to really make this work and to really just build a good faith relationship.
No drugs, alcohol.
Put substances, I think that kind of covers.
Yeah, well,
Kinda
you have to be
covers the
careful
blanket.
because like substance, what does that mean? It's like, they could be
Okay,
advertising perfume and stuff.
Sure.
Or political ads. I can't start that. That's nonsense.
No,
that could get
we don't want to be
right,
there.
that'd get wild.
We don't want to be there. That's not
Oh,
us.
my God. No, we don't want our units vandalized.
Yeah. Yeah, especially at night, right?
Okay, I have our notes here.
Hmm.
I just want to make sure everybody's asked their questions.
Yes.
One last thing that we need to think about and consider is the lighting. It's gonna be-
Oh, yeah, that's right. The lighting. So they automatically dim, you said they've matched what they do there. I don't know if, I can't remember.
These are the same, very similar to Starbucks drive-through menu board, correct?
Yes, correct. So,
Anybody been to the drive-through at Starbucks? It mimics that very much. Digital board.
I've never done this.
I'm not knowledgeable.
You guys Dunkin' Donut guys?
Not one that's got a lit
But
billboard,
that's
just,
only in one place. These are gonna be positioned
Right,
in
but the
different
drive-through
places.
is like the front
how
end.
bright it is.
So if you can recognize that, or if you've been down the drive-through, you see that it's very similar to that.
I've been through it during the day. That's not helpful.
When does Tanger Outlet officially like close for the evening?
So not till 12 in the morning, but they're a tenant of ours, so we would say we're open till 12 a.m.
Wow.
Wait, what?
12
The
a.m.
stores don't stay open.
Yeah.
No,
Who knows? The
No,
restaurant-
just Tanger's the last one.
So,
That's right. They're a tenant of ours, so we would consider ourselves open till 12 a.m. Our parking lot lights stay on, we have security.
No, that's not what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, how long do we, like, when do we say they have to dim their screen? You know, at this point in time, Tanger outlets, the outlets, let's say, the stores
So that's a
are
good question.
closed.
There's two levels to that. One is they automatically dim after dark. So that would happen
Automatically by
ambient,
sensor.
from an ambient standpoint,
Sure.
yeah. And then secondly, after midnight or soon thereafter, if your last tenant leaves at midnight, we could dim them even further. So there's nothing really you see till stores that reopen in the morning.
Yeah, do we need to spell that out in here if that's their business model?
Yeah, I
Do
think
you know
we should.
how,
Yeah,
what the
okay.
lumens are?
I think it's
We
always
actually
nice
have
to spell it
specific
out.
lumens in the ordinance.
If you're gonna add a set time frame on it, please understand that Starbucks arrives at 5 AM and they open at 6 AM. So they really would only shut off or dim to its lowest lumens between 12 AM to 6 AM.
Yeah.
So I know you guys said you want to spell it out, but
That's the time frame.
that would be the time frame I would.
I don't know what this.
How many
So,
lumens?
so lighting signs shall be directed downwards onto lighting surface and not toward the sky. And such lighting shall be limited to 1,800 initial lumens. As an example, it's a 100-watt incandescent bulb for every 15 square feet of sign surface.
Yeah, so our signs, like he said, will be consistent with the other ones there. You know, brightness during the day is a function of the daylight, and I don't, you know, we all know those regulations don't per se drive as much about daytime activity, but these will all be compliant with the regulation. It's interesting too, because the screens we use, they measure brightness by nits, is it?
Yes, by net.
Which is different than lumens, but long and the short is, I think to Eric's analogy, they're consistent with other signage already out there.
Has there ever been accidents from the lighting of these
No.
things that you've had installed everywhere?
No, there is not. I mean, certainly, I've not seen anything of it in my nature of it, of working for it. I mean, we do position them in such a way that they're easy to be seen, but not meant to be a distraction if someone's driving.
12 to 6, 12
And there's
to
no
6,
light,
is that what it is?
Internally illuminated signs shall be
You said
constructed
five
at the
when
top of the
it first came
sign
out,
does not
6,
allow light to
5.
connect directly
I mean,
towards
by
the
the
sky.
time
Is that how they're?
Winter's on, it's gonna be bright at 5 o'clock in the morning anyways.
Mm.
We get the planning.
Yeah, 'cause it doesn't matter what he
Yes.
says. Like, we can dictate what we want.
Yeah, I can put this where,
Right.
like, it's tough to me to use times, especially morning and afternoon times, because it changes in the winter.
Mm. No, well, midnight's midnight. It's
Midnight
always
is
dark.
midnight, yeah. I guess this is why I hadn't put a morning one yet. I wanted
Right.
to get you guys' input. 12:30 at night is always dark, so it is what it is. But the morning half of it, I don't know, 5 when people are starting to come in. Starbucks opens at probably
But
6.
it's not going to be in the Starbucks line.
Yeah, there's 2 of them next to
Yeah.
Starbucks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
One of them.
Starbucks?
two of
yeah,
them
they're
in
down in the
Starbucks lot, and
corner.
And that's where the planning board wanted them,
Yeah.
I suggested that maybe.
and they like that.
Yeah, better than where they originally put it.
The employees show up at 5, Starbucks opens at 6.
6.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know, what do you want to say, 12:30 and 5:30? Yeah, trying to.
Keep it simple, right? 12 to. I don't know, 5?
I'd say 5.
5?
The only reason I say that is summertime, it's almost light out at 5.
I agree.
That works.
I agree. 12 to 5.
That's fair.
Okay. And they're dim setting, right?
They're automatically dimmed.
Yeah.
Well, no, he said there's a
Well,
stage
there's a
to
natural
dim
dimming that
Right.
happens,
from ambient
and then
light.
we can do, yeah, exactly,
Right,
A dimmer setting.
yeah, so this would be like. a
which
stage
covers
2.
daylight savings all the
Mhm.
times of the year.
Sure. It wouldn't even matter. Yeah,
All right, so we got remain free. The town of Tilton is able to advertise remaining free, and we're gonna kick that back to the planning board to let them determine what makes sense for the town.
because you gotta go to see them anyway.
No more than 12 stations, no ads pertaining to drugs, alcohol, or political campaigns, political ads, and
Mm,
reduce lighting between 0030 and 0500 down to the dimmest setting. I'll clean that up better here.
Did you
Wanna
say
make sure.
change in the fee model? Did you
Yes.
say that?
Remain free is the first one, yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Remain free to charge, I guess I should say. Anyone have anything else we don't?
The number of stations.
Yeah, we got
That's
that. No more than 12 stations.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We actually have to close this to public comment.
We're
No
open it.
comment.
No public comment. So we'll close it to public comment and discuss it amongst ourselves, which we've discussed amongst ourselves. I don't have anything else.
I do not.
I don't know.
Anyone have a motion here? Or you want me to make it because I have it all in front of me right here? No,
Yeah,
joking.
good luck.
You need to make it.
Okay. Let me just get it, 2201. I make a motion to approve variance 22-01 with the conditions that it remains free to charge. The town of Tilton has the ability to advertise town business for an amount that's determined by planning board. There are no more than 12 stations. Ads will not include anything related to drugs, alcohol, or political campaigns. And the lighting will be reduced to its dimmest setting between 0030 and 0500.
I'll second the motion.
All right. Any discussion?
No, I'm ready.
All right. Those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And the ayes have it.
Thank you all
Thank
very
you.
much
Thank
for your
you.
consideration. Did I hear you're a fireman?
Yes, I am.
Chief Sapar?
Yeah, I do work for him.
I did a lot of work with him over the last year. He's a good man.
No kidding. He is.
Yeah, tell him I said hello.
I will. Okay.
You see that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So you are on the agenda for next Tuesday, right?
Thank you.
Bye, gentlemen.
Bye, have a good night.
Everybody good?
I'm good.
Ready for the next one? All right, we will bring up zone board 22-02.
Good evening.
Evening.
Okay, if I pull this down just to talk so you can hear me more clearly. Good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Rice with TF Moran. With me tonight is Dan Muller from Cronin, Bisson, and Zielinski, who's the legal representation for the applicant. The applicant tonight is COP Tilton LLC. The property that we're discussing is at 95 Business Park Drive, and I just presented an aerial plan here just in case nobody knew where the site was, but this is the 93 off-ramp. The Tilton Diner and the Shell Station are located right here, and then this is Route 132. The old J. Jill building is here, and then this is Business Park Drive, and the lot that we're discussing is this corner lot here, right at the corner of Business Park Drive and Route 132 or Sanborn Road.
Past the new police station.
Yes.
Mhm.
And we do have an existing conditions survey, which I can just show you quickly, which is just a little bullet plan. If you'd like me to pass it around, just let me know. But and maybe I'll go through the site constraints on the color plane just because it's a little bit more clear. But generally, the property slopes from the north to the south. All the stormwater ends up in this corner here and then goes through an existing culvert underneath the road, and then kind of continues down its way. So what we're here for tonight is, well, what's being proposed by the applicant is a medical dialysis clinic. It's about 7,700 square feet, one story. We have the minimum number of parking spaces. The site constraints I was mentioning, so the property outline here is in this red border. This yellow line from here to the north is 135-foot wide PSNH easement, so no structures are allowed in that area. And then this yellow line here represents a sewer easement to the town for a future possible sewer connection to service lots further up Route 132. We've also kept all structures outside of that. And there's also an existing slope easement off of Business Park Drive that was put in place when Business Park Drive was constructed. So we've kind of fit everything in that we could within the site constraints. We don't have any other relief being requested from the zoning board other than what I'll go through in a moment. And this plan was being used for the Conservation Commission and later for the Planning Board. The blue area that you're looking at here represents a small amount of buffer impact. There's no wetland impacts as part of this proposed plan, but we do impact a small piece of the wetland buffer, which is really because there's this existing wetland, which the line starts about here. There's a little finger that juts out right here. So that's kind of why this buffer line bends out. If it didn't, this buffer line would kind of continue out this way. And in any case, we went before the Conservation Commission last night. They were favorable for the project and didn't have any concerns. The kind of purplish line behind is just a temporary impact that I included for the construction. You know, they're going to need a little bit of room to work. We're putting in a retaining wall here along the whole back edge to limit as much as possible how much we're going into the buffer. But I know to put in the wall, they need a couple feet of space behind the wall to install the gravels and such and the drains. So again, we went before the Conservation Commission last night for that, and they'll be sending their minor comments to the planning board. The white areas on this plan just represent concrete. This is just a concrete drop-off area for the ambulance or their customers. And then we've got a concrete sidewalk around the building. This box here represents just an on-site generator because their facility needs to have power 24/7. And then this is just a transformer pad that's in this location here. They typically operate 6 days a week, and I'm not a medical expert, but the dialysis clinic is really just treating people's blood. And I believe that they're normal. They service about 12 patients at one time. They each basically sit in a chair and they have, I'm not sure if it's blood transfusions or some kind of processes that work that are trying to help clean out the water or pollutants that are in your blood that your kidneys can no longer handle. They have 12 employees at any one time maximum. There's a potential for a 13th that's periodical. They have an on-site physician that's there periodically. So the maximum number of employees at any one time is 13. It's generally 12, but every once in a while there's a physician on site. That's just a brief overview of the project. What we're here for tonight is two items. One is a special exception request. The use is permitted by special exception. And I can let Dan go through those arguments in a moment. And then the second item is for a head wall that's to be located in the front setback area, and that's shown approximately here. So as I mentioned, all the stormwater from this site naturally goes in this direction towards this corner. When we put this in, we've got the whole area curbed. We're going to collect all the runoff, the stormwater runoff. We're going to pre-treat it, and then it's going to be discharged. So that discharge is what we're talking about. This area here slopes up pretty quickly, and so we were trying to, I guess it serves two purposes. One, aesthetics. You know, it's better to have the pipe outlet at the bottom just rather than seeing the pipe at the top with some riprap going down the slope. So we were just trying to lower that pipe outlet as much as possible, and it works better just from a drainage aspect. It does, you know, you have less chance of erosion if you're outletting at the bottom of the slope than at the top. We're going to propose a riprap apron in any case that's sized accordingly. Leanne did pass along one comment to me that NHDOT had a concern on this and asked, I guess, I think that they stated that they requested that the board not vote on this item. When Leanne passed that along, I did call NHDOT and I just expressed to them, look, I'll make sure to keep the head wall and the riprap apron out of the right of way, and I'll provide them with a copy of our drainage analysis that we're working on that'll show no increase in runoff in any storm event to this existing culvert. And so I promised to send, I do a lot of work with DOT, so I promised to send that to him, and I know it probably doesn't mean a lot to you guys, but I didn't know if it's the pleasure of the board, if there could be a condition that, you know, if the variance is granted, that we will get confirmation from DOT that their concerns have been satisfied.
The culvert goes underneath the town road there.
The existing culvert, which we're not touching, it's just that our culvert, it's not really a culvert, it's a drainage system outlet pipe, would daylight before that area.
Yeah.
And our design is going to be such that we're detaining enough of the water so that we'll have to do a drainage analysis that calculates for each storm event how much water is getting to this pipe. And then in the post-development condition, we prove that we're matching or decreasing that. And so we're working on that aspect now, but that is what we will do. So
that's what their hangup was.
That's what their hangup was. Their hangup was two items. They didn't want the head wall or the riprap in the right of way because they don't want any maintenance responsibilities. And then second was just to make sure that we're not increasing the runoff into their right of way. So I assured them that we would address both of those comments.
And they couldn't determine that from looking at the plan. I think
No. Yeah, he just had a little plan, like I think a snip image of this on the email. So I called him and went through it, and he thought it all made sense. I just wanted to relay that to the board so that I didn't want you to be concerned. The DOT had a concern. I have spoken to them.
That's why I was asking. It goes underneath the Nickerson Road there, whatever it is. It doesn't go
and then
underneath
it keeps going down that right. So this culvert here that's under the roadway is the state's. I'm not sure if that's the state or the town culvert. I know that this is state right away here, so I would assume that it's the state's culvert to maintain. But I know sometimes towns do some of the maintenance for some state roads, so I won't guess on that. But If we answer all your questions and address all the other comments, I didn't know if it is the pleasure of the board, we'd be happy if it's a condition of approval to supply
The
confirmation
signs
from
off on
DOT.
it, or-
I'm sorry.
That DOT signs off on it?
Yeah,
approves it, or-
like I said, I'm going to give them a copy of my drainage analysis and the final plan set. I did speak with them on the phone and just went through basically everything that I've gone through with you tonight. And they understood. They couldn't tell that from what we were looking at. They just thought we were dumping a bunch of water into their right of way, which I clarified that with them.
And the drainage really isn't your issue as much as it is planning boards, but the fact that the culvert is.
They're getting a
Is in
variance.
the right, is in the front setback.
Is in the front set.
Yeah.
And it's quasi a structure.
Yeah, and I know we discussed if it was even
Yeah, I know.
necessarily
Better to
required
solve
because
it
there's.
here and then not bump
Yep.
up against it at planning. And the only other thing with regard to the special exception was if you want to just quickly just address the sewer issue that
Where
I
that's
guess
coming
is
in.
resolved
Oh,
now.
sure.
Somewhat, there was a,
Yep, so the sewer, so that you know that that when Business Park Drive was constructed, the sewer ends about here on the roadway. And it goes gravity from here this way and then down back
Home Depot.
behind Home Depot. And then there were future plans for the sewer to come down this way to service this lot and this lot. There's two other lots down this side. And then this line here was intended for just a future sewer connection. But I don't know what the thinking was at the time of that design. This roadway from about this point, as I mentioned, this goes gravity this way, but elevation wise, you're up here at this point on the road and then you're down here at this end. So there's no way to physically get gravity sewer beyond this point. You would have to do a pump station. There were 3-4 inch force main stubs left in this last manhole that was constructed. Two of them are for these lots here, 1 and 1. And then I did go before the sewer commission just to kind of lay all this out before him and say, I basically let them know what I knew and how did you want me to proceed. There's a third stub, but we think it was to go down this way to potentially service some lots further up the street. Again, that would have to be a force main and that would have to be designed and so on and so forth. At the time, for whatever reason, there was no provision left for this lot for sewer. There's no stub, there's no force main. I don't know how that happened, but I went before the sewer commission and basically laid out a couple different options for them. There's only one chance for a gravity line, which was to go from here back to here and then over. This required an easement from the abutter. The abutter really didn't want to provide the easement, and this route did have minimum pipe cover just because of elevations that we have to hit at this existing manhole. So we did end on a pump station that will come from a private pump station from this lot that'll be situated roughly here. I'm working on this design now, but this is where it's going to go, and it'll force main up into this manhole up here. So I've discussed this again with Johanna at the sewer department. I'm working on the final design calcs and plans, but that's what will happen with the sewer connection.
and I spoke to John too.
Water, there was a stub left approximately in this location for this lot, but it didn't go across the roadway, so we'll have to
Cut the road.
deal with, cut the road or direct for it once that time comes. If there's any questions you'd like me to answer now, or we can get into the criteria and then answer it all at the end, whatever the pleasure of the board is.
I don't have any at the moment.
No, that was actually a very good explanation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's great.
I'm fine.
So yeah, let's just read the criteria and then we'll, if anything comes up in there, then we'll keep going. Go for it.
Okay, if you'd like me to, I will read through the criteria. I'll
All
start
right,
with the special exception. Just for the record, Dan Muller from Cronin Business Zelensky. The specific site is an appropriate location for such a use. Actually, I'm going to just take this off briefly so you can also hear me a little more clearly. The industrial park district serves a range of manufacturing, warehousing, and office uses where sewer is available or will be available. COPT seeks to establish a standalone medical office use on the property. The wetlands, together with the associated buffers, as well as existing easements of the property, make larger scale development often associated, with manufacturing and warehousing uses impractical. In addition, the property sits at the entrance to the Nickerson Business Park from New Hampshire Route 132. A smaller scale development, which provides for more open space on the property, makes for a more attractive entrance to the park. As such, a smaller scale medical office development is appropriate for the property. The property sits at the entrance to the Nickerson Business Park from New Hampshire Route 132. The proposed dialysis clinic will not implicate the heavy truck traffic associated with manufacturing and warehousing uses. As such, uses in other parts of the Nickerson Business Park will not have to deal with the same to access their lots from New Hampshire Route 132. Similarly, while it is a medical or health service office, a dialysis clinic does not provide the wide range of health services like a convenient MD or general practice office. Its services are tailored to a specific group of patients, those with kidney disease. With a more discrete client base, it will not generate the traffic that a general practice medical office would generate and would be more in line with the professional offices that are allowed as a matter of right in the industrial business, the industrial park district. Furthermore, the intended operating procedure of staggering appointments over each shift will further limit the amount of traffic coming and going to the office at any one time. While the property is in the industrial zoning district, it lies across New Hampshire Route 132 from properties in the regional commercial district where medical offices are permitted as a matter of right. The property also lies down New Hampshire Route 132 from a rural agricultural zoning district. The less intense, smaller scale medical office use proposed by COPT fits in much better in this area of diverse zoning districts and uses than a large scale industrial development. The property is served by public water. Access to reliable and safe source of water is an essential for a dialysis clinic. The availability of public water, which is tested regularly, makes the site appropriate for the proposed use. Finally, for clients of the dialysis clinic, which is intended to serve the Lakes region, the site is convenient from major roads in the area. The clinic would be right off New Hampshire Route 132 and in close proximity to New Hampshire Routes 11 and Interstate 93, the principal thoroughfares in the area. For all of these reasons, the site is appropriate for the use. Number 2, property values in the district will not be reduced due to incompatible land use. The majority of the relevant industrial zoning district is within the Nickerson Business Park. Except for a lot improved by a cellular tower, the other lots within the Nickerson Business Park are unimproved, so there is no issue of incompatible land use within the Nickerson Business Park itself. There are 2 lots on New Hampshire Route 132, which are also within the industrial zoning district, although neither of those lots abut the property. One of the lots, not on Business Park Drive, is owned by Eagle Safe Surfaces, Inc., a business focused on airfield safety. The assessing records indicate that site work on the other lot, tax map R19, lot 15-2, is not commenced. In any event, a small-scale development for a dialysis clinic with ample open space is not incompatible with the limited existing uses in the industrial zoning district and will not cause a reduction in property values in that district. 3, there is no valid objection from the abutters based on demonstrable fact. Nickerson Business Park LLC currently owns the property as well as the majority of the lots abutting the property. As COPT's proposed seller, it is presumed that Nickerson has no objection to the proposed development. Lot to the north of the property is improved by a cellular tower. The proposed dialysis clinic and its related development will have no foreseeable impact on that use. The properties across New Hampshire Route 132 from the property are within the regional commercial zoning district where medical offices are permitted as a matter of right, and the COPT's proposed medical office use with its specialized focus will not be as intense as other medical office uses, such as a convenient MD or general practice office. Given the circumstances of the property and the area, there should be no valid objection from abutters to the proposed use. No nuisance or hazard is involved. The proposed dialysis clinic will not unreasonably interfere with the use and enjoyment of any other property nor create a hazard. The clinic will be a low-intensity office use, which, as discussed above, will generate less traffic than other medical offices with a specialized focus. COPT proposes to locate a dumpster on the property for private trash removal. The proposed use does not generate excess noise, fumes, odors, or the like. Like all healthcare offices, COPT will generate medical waste. However, the dialysis clinic generates minimal medical waste, and the COPT intends to contract with a licensed medical disposal company for the removal of the same. COPT otherwise intends to comply with state and federal regulations regarding the segregation, disposal of any medical waste. Adequate and appropriate facilities will be provided for the operation of the proposed use. Public water is available to serve the property. COPT will seek relief from the planning board to allow temporary disturbance of the wetlands buffer for the construction of a sewer line. so that the property will be served by sewer as well. Electrical facilities are readily available as the property is encumbered in part by an easement to Public Service Company in New Hampshire for trash disposal. Property will be served by a dumpster with private hauling and has contracted with a licensed medical waste disposal company to remove such medical waste. COPT intends to have signage and lighting on the property which complies with the town's standards for the same. Finally, COPT proposes to have 30 parking spaces, including 2 accessible parking spaces on the property. 30 parking spaces will satisfy the town's requirements and will also satisfy the needs of the clinic, which generally intends to have up to 25 staff and patients on site at any one point in time. As such, there will be adequate and appropriate facilities. There is adequate area for safe and sanitary sewage disposal. The property is to be served by sewer and therefore does not require an adequate area for a septic system. Operations in connection with such a use shall not be more objectionable to nearby properties by reason of noise, fumes, odor, or vibration than would be the operation of any permitted uses in the district which are not subject to the special exception procedures. A dialysis clinic and office use will not generate any more noise, fumes, odor, or vibration than the professional office use allowed as a matter of right in the industrial zoning district. The proposed use will definitely generate less noise, fumes, odors, or vibrations than many manufacturing and warehousing operations which would be allowed in the industrial zoning district. Indeed, the use should not generate any fumes, odors, or vibrations given its nature, and the noise it generates should be minimal.
Just a question, just so I'm clear. So basically, if I'm understanding this map right, the only buildable space on this lot is pretty much what you've taken up with this building. You can't build to the left of the white or the yellow line.
Right.
And you
This
can't
one,
build-
you could potentially, you would need a joint use agreement from the power company, which there's no guarantee to getting that. They typically don't want structures, but I have gotten them before for parking lots but it's a long and tedious process. So I would say that's correct, but just to be clear.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I understand.
that
And then to the, I guess it would be the east of the building, that's
everything
all
here-
wetlands.
This is all wetland buffer. The wetland ends about here.
Okay,
This is all the red line represents the required buffer off the wetland.
okay,
And so this is a wider buffer. This is a 100-foot buffer because this wetland exceeds 40,000 square feet in area. This wetland down here is under that threshold, so only a 20-foot buffer applies. That's why this is a smaller buffer. But yeah, so basically you're wedged in between here and your
street.
front setback line. Well, not even the street for building. It's the front setback line is pretty close. It's right about here.
Right. So you're basically taking, I mean, this is about as big a building as you can put onto this lot.
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you.
Sorry for the long-winded answer. To get to the quick answer there for you.
No worries. It's nice and clear. It's perfect.
Would you like me to do the variance now, or would you like?
Do you need a break from reading?
This isn't the worst. Some poor soul recently, he served 25 years on the zoning board. His last case was to listen to me drone on for 20 minutes on 7 different variances. So it could be far worse.
It might be clear for you guys to take them one at a time. since
Yeah.
they're separate.
Yep,
They're
sounds
not-
good.
They're not multiple variances, they're different.
If I could, just for the board's knowledge, just add that we've mentioned that the applicant is COP Tilton, but just so you're aware, the proposed tenant is Fresenius Medical Care. And just so you know that they're a leading provider of kidney dialysis in the United States. They provide treatment currently to over 183,000 patients in over 2,400 US facilities. In New England, they operate 56 dialysis clinics, and they also contract dialysis services to over 59 hospitals. So I just wanted to give you that.
Is this
that
the
back.
first one in New Hampshire?
I would have to check on that. I don't believe so, but I'm not sure, honestly. First one I've worked on in New Hampshire. So. But just so you know, they're not a one shop. You know,
And Concord and Littleton is only, would be your 2 options, and Dartmouth, I mean, but I meant like close to here.
Right.
It's not one of the Lakes region.
Doesn't Laconia do?
I think it goes to Concord. I don't know if there's dialysis in Laconia. I just don't know.
I think so.
Yeah.
We have a couple guys that go up.
To look, then they must.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, you want us to vote on this one now and take it all?
Well, I want you to deliberate on it, yes?
Okay,
And
that's what, you want us to finish this one before we move on to the next?
I think it'd be easier for you than to start getting into the criteria for a variance, then remember all the criteria and what you're doing.
Sounds good.
Also, if you were to deny the special exception, there's no point in getting a variance. Also, remember, 3 of you would have had to visit the site at some point.
I did.
You did?
I visited this. I mean, I didn't walk it, but I drove.
Yeah.
Drove 132 and it's just a undeveloped lot right
Yeah.
up
Right,
there.
Yeah,
there's
okay.
nothing
I
to
did
see.
Okay. All right.
So we have-
The ordinance requires that three members. of the
people
board
go.
have been to the site. This is a visit of the site. Okay. I'm gonna say Brian.
So the first one is dealing with the changing of the zoning,
It's not
Right.
changing the zone, it's allowed,
allowing,
but by special exception.
yes.
You know, what, I guess my thought is, why are they not allowing it in the business district to begin with? Like when they set this up, what was their thinking in not allowing such a business to come in? Is it the increased traffic?
No, I think because, I mean, my opinion in zoning, it's industrial zone. So they allow, again, it's not allowed, it's allowed by special exception. So they want it to come to the board first and make sure they meet the criteria that it's not going to be a nuisance and all that. In this case, like you can look at, you don't have your ordinances in front of you, but if you look at the permitted uses, there's a lot that are special exception, and, for different reasons.
Right.
It's not that they can't do it, they just can't do it without coming.
Agreed. I was just
Yeah.
wondering at one point in time, was it just they wanted to slow everything down? So,
Well, like one of the
or
other,
is there a reason why medical isn't allowed in industrial? Oh, yeah.
I can take a guess. I think you probably were right with the thing, because a lot of municipalities do this. They distinguish between professional offices such as an architect, lawyer, et cetera, and medical offices, and it usually is based on the concern with traffic.
like an urgent care would have
Yeah.
to do the same,
Yeah.
go through the same
Yeah.
process. A bank, special exception, if you want to put a bank or any retail, is allowed by special exception in the industrial zone.
Right.
So there's a lot in the industrial zone that are special exceptions.
Okay. Right.
Sexual oriented businesses are allowed by special
Like-
exception. believe it or not.
Just from my experience, I think what they try to do sometimes based on my correspondence with other zoning officers is they want to leave options open, but they want to make sure that the use is appropriate for that specific site. So you can have an industrial zone, but not every use is going to be appropriate for that because you're in the industrial zone. So that,
And
that
what
can come into
industry
account for
happens in that
utilities,
place?
it can come into account for traffic, noise, abutting properties, if you got residential bordering, so there's a whole slew of potentials. But we think that this makes sense for this site and it's a good use of the property. And
It's easy to find.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's very easy to find.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'm all set.
I don't have any questions.
Question
Also,
All right. Call the roll.
We will, I need a motion.
Are there any conditions? Conditions, I think you should,
I don't think, well,
Put
I
on
have
the-
some on drainage.
Yeah, for the special exception, I don't,
On the next one for the drain pipe, but I don't think I have one
I don't have any.
allowing
So
a
do you-
medical
I
facility.
don't have any for these. I thought it was all gonna be, end up being like, DOT and such.
Yeah, probably once we get to the
Yes.
variance part,
Yes,
but I don't have anything for the special
for a
exception.
special assumption on almost.
I'm trying to even foresee, what's the only thing they're gonna do is build this thing more stories higher, like that's the only.
we wouldn't
Yeah,
be
but
able
then
to
you need
because of
more
the parking
parking.
requirement.
Right,
We meet-
yeah.
We meet the minimum. I think we have one extra space than what the town requires. So if we couldn't double the parking out there. We're pretty much maxed out the site, to be honest.
I mean, at a minimum, you probably could make the condition that they provide public water and sewer, they bring the sewer in, which they're going to. But
Oh,
We have to. We
I guess
can't.
I thought-
We don't
sorry, I
have
was
room for
under
a
the
septic
impression they had
system
to.
on site, so it's,
they're gonna have to,
They
but
have
you're
to.
allowing the use based on.
I mean, if that's something we should put in there, I'll put it in there.
I mean, they will anyway, but
it's pleasure of the board. Honestly, they're not
They
going to do the
can't do it
project
without
without
that.
municipal water or sewer, so they don't really have the room for a septic system that
Right.
wouldn't be within the buffer, which I'd have to then go
Mhm.
before Concom and planning board for.
nothing's
condition.
impossible.
Nothing's impossible, but I don't think that,
I'll put it in there, yeah.
Yeah, doesn't hurt.
They're doing it anyways, it covers everyone's bases. Okay. I'll make this motion again if you guys want.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we approve the special exception portion of zoning board case 22-02 with the condition that town water and sewer be brought in. that the right wording? Public water and sewer be brought
When
in.
you say brought in, can we just maybe clarify to say that the site will be serviced?
The
by-
site will be serviced by public
So
water,
there's not confusion that we're bringing up new mains or something like that.
for sure, yeah.
That's good.
So I'll say it again, I make a motion that we approve the special exception portion of zoning board case 22-02 with the condition that the site is serviced by public water and sewer.
I second that.
All right, any discussion on the motion? Nope. All righty, those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? The special exception passes. And we will move on to the variance motion.
Okay, next up again. Number one, the grant of the variance would not be contrary to the public interest. The grant of variance from the front setback would not unduly conflict with the basic objectives of Article 4.3 and Article 7, Appendix C. The grant of the variance would neither alter the essential character of the neighborhood or threaten the public health, safety, or welfare. The improvement issue is a drainage pipe outlet and is more akin to the utility structures that the zoning ordinance recognizes to be appropriate for the setback areas. Stormwater runoff management is a cornerstone of non-residential development. The property is within the industrial zoning district where non-residential development is the only permitted development. The town has a drainage easement along Business Park Drive, and this drainage pipe would connect with the existing drainage system in the area. Given the property's location in the industrial zoning district and the existing drainage system along Business Park Drive, the allowance of the drainage pipe outlet in the front setback will not alter the essential character of the area. Additionally, the allowance of the drainage pipe outlet will not threaten the public health, safety, or welfare. The improvement will be near the existing drainage easement along Business Park Drive. A drainage outlet pipe within the setback does not give rise to the issues which the setback requirement seeks to prevent, such as overcrowding of land or safety concerns. It is more akin to the utility structures which are permitted within the setback. Finally, from an aesthetic standpoint, placing the drainage outlet pipe outside of the setback will render the same more visible to the public and would be located higher up. Placing the drainage outlet pipe may also interfere with its intended function and necessitate more improvements to the area which currently is proposed to be open space. As such, the denial of the variance would prevent proper site development in terms of stormwater drainage contrary to the public health, safety, or welfare. Number two, the grant of the variance would not violate the spirit of the ordinance. The requirement that a variance observe the spirit of the ordinance is related to the public interest element and focuses upon the same considerations. As such, the reasons that the grant of the variance would not be contrary to the public interest, it also observes the spirit of the ordinance. Number three, substantial justice will be done by granting the variance. The loss to COPT in the event that the variance is denied outweighs any gain to the general public. Accordingly, substantial justice will be done by granting the requested variance. The development will require site plan review, and it is highly doubtful that the site plan approval will be granted without proper stormwater runoff management. Typically, stormwater runoff improvements will be connected to the drainage system in or near the road right away. That would be particularly appropriate here where the zoning ordinance disfavors runoff towards wetlands, which are found in the other corners of the property, and COPT directs runoff away from those wetlands. In short, the denial of variance could very well establish a significant obstacle to the development of the property by COPT or any other potential buyer. There would be no real gain to the public if the variance is denied. The town already possesses a drainage system along the Business Park Drive right away. The improvement at issue here is more akin to utility structures, which the zoning ordinance recognizes are not subject to the setback requirement. Indeed, the denial of variance would prevent proper stormwater runoff management contrary to the public interest. Number four, the variance will not result in a diminution of surrounding property values. The variance would allow the construction of a drainage outlet pipe in the front setback. The improvement will not cause a sense of overcrowding, detract from the open space around the development, or create a safety issue. The placement of the drainage outlet pipe within the setback will minimize its visibility and allow COPT to maintain open space in the southwestern corner of the property. In short, it will not have any discernible impact on surrounding properties, save a positive one, namely it will help manage stormwater runoff so that the same does not impact other properties or the road. As such, the variance will not result in the diminution of surrounding property values. Number five, the denial of the variance would result in unnecessary hardship owing to special conditions of the property. The property is encumbered by a wetland along significant portions of its northern and eastern boundaries. The zoning ordinance, as evinced by the prohibitions Under its Article 14 does not favor stormwater runoff towards the wetlands or their buffers. Furthermore, the town already has drainage easements along Business Park Drive right away to control runoff. Article 4.3 suggests that setbacks are not intended for utility type structures, and the drainage pipe outlet is similar to utility structures in that it does not cause or contribute to the issues that the setback requirement is intended to address. As such, owing to the special conditions of the property, there is no fair and substantial relationship between the general purposes of the setback requirement and specific application of the property in the case of the drainage outlet pipe. The proposed use is also reasonable. As discussed above, any non-residential development on the property is going to require proper stormwater runoff management in order to be permitted. And the drainage pipe outlet pipe is part of the management system for the property. The proposed location of the drainage outlet pipe is also consistent with common practice throughout the state and improves the appearance of the property by minimizing the visibility of the pipe and maintaining more open space. And obviously, as Chris indicated beforehand, we are willing to go along with a condition that New Hampshire DOT ultimately sign off on the drainage pipe location.
So I guess I'm trying to make sure I picture this right. Are we talking about like an 8-inch pipe that just comes out of the ground? Are we talking like a big concrete?
So I'm not sure if it would be a small head wall or a flared end section. If flared end section is kind of just basically a little plastic chamber that the pipe kind of comes out and just helps you transition from pipe to ground. It could end up being a small head wall. I don't think the pipe size, I'm still working on the drainage design. The pipe size won't be greater than 12 inches. If I can get it down a little bit lower, but typically it ends up at around 12 inches, just so you can accommodate some of the higher, the 100-year storm event might require a pipe that big, even though it's an infrequent storm. So I think you're probably going to be, I know it'll be a flared end section or a head wall and a 12-inch pipe or less. I'll state it that way. If it's a head wall, it's probably only going to need to be somewhere in the order of like 3.5 feet wide and maybe a foot and a half to 2 feet tall exposed above grade, just to help blend in the grade around you as you're transitioning into the pipe. So
and that pipe is going to pick up structures in the parking lot?
Yeah, it picks up, so all the parking lot, the drive aisle, the building, all the parking spaces. I have a number of catch basins throughout the property.
Yep.
They all tie together and go into an underground storm tech system.
Oh, okay.
I'm kind of limited to what we could do for stormwater in this site because of the elevations on the property. That storm tech system essentially it's a chamber system underground that basically detains the water.
Mm-hmm.
You get pre-treatment through what they call an isolator row. So all the inlets into the system go through one chamber. That one chamber is wrapped in a filter fabric, so it keeps all the sediment and everything in that one row of chambers. So that's the only one that they have to clean. Everything else, the water that gets through is pre-treated. And then for the permanent treatment, it goes through a filter media mix, which is an approved mix by NHDES that removes the pollutants, the phosphorus and nitrogen and so forth. And then once it gets through that layer, there's an under drain pipe at the bottom, and those will be tied together. And this is just that under drain outlet pipe essentially.
And it comes right out there in the corner there where you have it marked.
Correct. Roughly in this location.
Yeah.
We're still working on the final elevation.
Yeah,
but-
DOT's asking it to be out of there right away.
Yep. So right now the head wall is shown out of the right of way. It's just the riprap apron I had shown going over the line. So I assured NHDOT in the town that I'll pull all that back. The riprap, I use size it based on their drainage count. So once those are done, that'll tell me how long the apron has to be and how wide and so on and so forth.
Now, when the water comes out, are you saying it goes through the brick and then goes down into some sort of culvert and then dispense, or is that just thrown onto the road?
It goes underneath that culvert, underneath the Business Park Drive.
Yeah, there's basically roadside swales along Business Park Drive and Route 132. And there's an existing culvert here that basically these two connect to.
Okay.
And my runoff is just going to daylight into that swale and continue through its north.
And we're hoping that the current culvert that's underneath the road is going to be large enough.
It'll show,
your numbers.
Yeah, once my numbers are done, it should take that. Well, I should back that up because I'm not analyzing the whole town, because this drainage area goes way up 132. What I've done and what we're required to do is we calculate the runoff from our property and what's going in that corner, and I have to reduce it. So I assume that the driveway culvert is sized adequately now, but whatever I'm going to do is going to improve whatever's happening now. If you follow that, I guess.
Yeah, you have to make it less than what it is.
I have to make it less than what it is today, but I can't guarantee you that this culvert is sized for a 100-year storm event when they put that in.
Yeah.
All I can tell you is whatever comes off my property now for any storm event, I'm going to reduce it
Reduce it.
in the post-development condition for every storm event. So I'll show that through calcs. It's typically the 2, the 10, the 25, the 50. And Conservation Commission asked me last night to run the 100 just so that they're aware. So
Are you asking if it's gonna be like an eyesore, like when you drive by? you're gonna see
Yeah, I was just trying to get a better mental image of what, you're talking about if you couldn't be into it, it would be back up into the kind of the line of sight more. So I'm just trying to get a rough idea. Of
So to give you an idea, the existing culvert is at elevation roughly 502 down here. By the time you're up to here, you're at 520.
Oh, wow.
So there's like an 18 to 20 foot grade change from here to here. So we were just trying to outlet the pipe further down here as opposed to at the top of the slope and letting it just run down the slope. I think you'd be more apt to not see a head wall on a pipe that's down here as opposed to, I mean, as you're driving by, this site is pretty prominent right there at the corner.
Yeah.
It is being cut down a little bit. We're restricted to how fast we can come up. I mean, we've put our driveway entrance as far up this road as we can, which gets me as high up in elevation as the starting point, and then I come up this way. But we're having to cut out this area anywhere, from a couple feet in the front to about 6 feet in the back to try to
grade it out,
to notch this thing in. So,
and there's not there's usually like a certain amount of feet that people are asking for. You just not have that because you don't know exactly how much space you're going to need.
correct. I wasn't sure yet. It's a function of the riprap apron. Typically, they're 15 to 20 feet in length. I think my front setback is 30, so that would give me maybe 10 feet to work with. It all depends on how much I can detain and hold back for that storm event. So again, we were just trying to make things a little more aesthetically pleasing. I might be able to make it work if I kept everything out of the setback, but again, it was even a question if this technically was a structure. That's the whole reason we're here tonight is we're requesting relief from a structure setback. Like most towns, the definition of structure in the town ordinance is pretty vague. It's wide, basically any man-made structure. A lot of towns have caveats in there that, retaining walls over 4 feet, under 4 feet in height are structures. There wasn't any language in Tilton zoning ordinance, so it really just said anything man-made. So to me, if you're going to hold it to the letter of the law, if I have a concrete head wall or a plastic outlet, that's a man-made item. So
We recently got into that discussion at the planning board on structure, and they took the hard line on that, so I just thought, let's just bring it
so we wanted to be
forward.
on the safe
You're here
side.
anyway.
But I think it's a pretty common occurrence to have these type of items. I mean, I think the intent has always been more to have by structure, no buildings, no sign, monument signs, but other things that are maybe ancillary items I've had not considered structures, where like I mentioned, retaining walls typically under 4 feet aren't, in most towns aren't structures, fences under 4 feet, because you could have a decorative fence in the front, but.
And they do make an exception for those things.
Yeah, and so, like I said, it's pretty, but there wasn't any language that might lead me to, hey, a head wall's not included in that, so we just wanted to cover our bases. Ask for,
And it's when the water comes out of the structure, that's where you're gonna have the riprap.
correct. That I would say is not a man-made structure, that's rock that's been placed, I guess, yeah, you call it.
Yeah.
But the head wall or the flared end section, which is typically just a little plastic chamber that's, probably about that long, it starts flat and then starts curving up until you hit the thickness of the pipe or the radius of the pipe. And so it just helps you transition from the pipe to the ground and helps you blend in the side slopes and transfer that.
More questions? I was just thinking we didn't go through all 5 on the last one, which like we normally do. I don't know if that.
You didn't go, right, you acknowledge it.
I felt like we conversed about it a lot, but we didn't hit each 5.
Individually.
Yeah, I don't like to.
Okay. All right. Everybody comfortable that we don't hit each 5?
Mhm.
I don't have any questions. Does anyone else? No. Nope. Anybody want to make a motion?
What was DOT asking for?
They just asked me to provide them a copy of the final plans and the drainage analysis.
And to show that it's not gonna be in the right of way and that they won't increase any runoff onto the roads.
So
Those were the two
I have no
concerns.
problem. Can we stipulate that?
But they just meet the requirements. Right, that he gets
Yeah,
a confirmation.
Yeah, I'll get written confirmation. I don't know if it will be in the form of a letter or an email, but I'll definitely send it to DOT.
And I think we need that because they specifically told me, I know you talked on the phone, I believe you.
Oh, that's why I wanted to bring it up tonight. I didn't want it to just be a
But they
hidden
actually
item.
sent me an email and said, please make no decision until you get our approval.
Right.
And he called, and I'm sure they're okay, but
Yeah, so I'd like to, we can make the approval with that stipulation that they.
DOP approves it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I promise I'll send it to him and I'll supply copies of the correspondence with land or whoever you feel most appropriate.
Part of your approval.
You're dealing with Mike Kimball?
Let me just not forget districts. I'm working on like with 3 projects in 3
Yeah.
different districts right now. I'm working with Brian DeFosis. Shoot, I just don't want to misstate it because
Yeah, sorry.
this might have been a new gentleman actually in this area. I think.
District 3,
I'm sorry?
in District 3.
Yeah. It wasn't one that I'm used to dealing with.
Just that we have the condition with approval.
Yeah.
I want to say McCullen, but I can check and get back to you.
Nope, that's fine.
Go ahead.
All right, my night tonight.
Yeah.
You're in every-
It was Mike.
You're doing very well.
Oh, it was Mike Kimball?
Mike Kimball.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I just didn't recall.
Yep. Okay.
All right, I make a motion that we approve a variance from Article 4. Is that right? Yeah. Right? Yeah. Article 4, Section 4.3 to allow a drain pipe outlet within the front setbacks with a condition that it receives approval for the plan from New Hampshire DOT. Any discussion on the motion? Oh, I need a second. Yeah.
A second.
Any discussion?
No, I'm ready to vote.
All right. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? And it passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You haven't submitted the plan.
No, we're going,
Almost.
we're going to the March meeting, I believe.
Oh, yeah, let's do that now.
March 22nd, March 1st for the March
Nope,
22nd.
we gotta approve the plan, yeah.
Minutes.
Anyone got a motion to approve the minutes? Can you maybe do them all?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from December 21.
21. Anyone second it?
I'll second.
Seconded. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. The minutes pass.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Nice.
You're welcome, don't worry.
Thank you.
You're welcome. She got shut off.
Mhm.
Thank you. Bye, Chris. Oh, we do the minutes?
Yeah.
We'll adjourn?
We adjourn. Oh, we didn't adjourn.
Mm.
Anyone make a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
I second it.
Seconded.
There we go.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion, meeting is adjourned.
As part of approving the minutes, Ann made the motion and I seconded it.